Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and depending how you take dropping points in the Scottish Premiership, depending how your temper goes after these sorts of games, you'll either be looking at it as a point that might be very important come the end of the season, or you might be looking at it as an absolute disgrace. There's usually no in between on these sorts of occasions, is there? It's always a bit up in the air. Anyway, Celtic somehow escaping with a point this evening. Dundee free, Celtic free. Let's talk about that. Hello, like and subscribe if you haven't already. It would be much appreciated. Nonetheless, we're here to talk about tonight's draw. A game in which Celtic were, let's cut to the point here, quite terrible. And I don't mean to sound like I'm over-exaggerating, and I'm not coming on here to rant and scream and shout about how Celtic are shocking, we're going to bottle the league, and, you know, we need to rip up everything and start again. Of course, I'm not on here to do that, but it was pretty terrible from Celtic tonight. I would say that Celtic were bullied for a vast majority of that game, and Dundee will feel really hard done by that they have not left Dens Park with more than the point this evening. 3 points was very much on the radar for them until Celtic got a 93rd minute penalty to get that point. It was a really poor performance from us. It was one of those performances that I think maybe puts into perspective the drop in intensity recently, and I've seen somebody sum it up really well on social media, and if I could find it, it would be fantastic. I think it was Craig from the Celtics Are Here actually, who worded it in: fans feeling relaxed is fine, but the players can't be. Rodgers needs to bring that intensity back. And we need to see that intensity in the pitch, because I feel like in recent weeks it has dropped a little bit. And I'm not going to sit here and over-exaggerate. I'm not, because we scored 3 goals tonight. We scored 4 at the weekend. We have won basically every game we've played in, it feels like. It's by no means a disaster tonight. You know, these games happen. There's games where you are going to struggle. And Dundee, by all accounts, under Tony Docherty this season, have been good. I said it in my live stream last night, this will be a tough game. I saw what they done to Rangers. I saw how they played against Rangers, and they could very easily do that to us, and they did. So you've got to give them all their respect and their props for the performance tonight. And it's not a disaster by any stretch, but Celtic have dropped off in intensity a wee bit, which I wouldn't say is worrying, not at this stage, but it's a concern, because it feels like something that we had very, very special going at the start of the season and going very much towards December time. Something special was being built. We're seeing some really good football, and in recent weeks I think we've let that escape a wee bit, because maybe there has been a wee bit of relaxed play at the club, a wee bit of, I don't know, I don't want to use the word complacency, because I know that's one thing that Brendan Rodgers or this squad led by Callum McGregor were allowed to creep in. I don't think they would allow complacency to deliberately creep in, but I don't know if there is a subconscious part of them that is just took the foot off the gas a wee bit. They've seen the points gap at the top of the table and they've maybe stepped off a wee bit. But I think tonight's performance is going to bring up a lot of that feeling amongst the support, because it wasn't us at our best, because it was us dropping points. And I know that we're suffering from a couple of injuries and whatnot, but it's not an excuse. Celtic's squad is by miles the best in the country, and that's without Nicholas Kuhn and Dyson Maeda starting games. Dundee have had their injury problems and still had their injury problems going into tonight, and they still came out and were the better side and should have won the game. So I don't know what it is that's going wrong. It's, as I said, by no means a disaster or panic stations for me. The league is very much wrapped up, and I think it still would be even if Rangers were better than what they are. But it's just, yeah, I want that intensity to return tonight. There was something missing, and we let ourselves get bullied up and down that park. There were certain players who just looked frightened, who looked like they had no confidence in them for whatever reason. They should be a group of players playing with all the confidence in the world, but they weren't, and that's frustrating. So it's a couple of points dropped, which is never nice, but you take it in the chin, you move on. We'll try and do the match reaction the way that we normally would. Before I do start talking about, you know, the first half, second half, whatnot, I think the main concern for me is, and this is with all due respect to Dundee, because I want to talk about them. This isn't about taking this game and throwing it in the past and just thinking about next week. But it's a case of, I don't like seeing these sort of performances ahead of such a huge game against Young Boys next week. A game which I'm still confident for. I really am. I'm not saying that we're going to go out there next week and run away with it and we're guaranteed a win. I'm just confident. Which I should be allowed to be, considering our performances this season and the position that we're in, both domestically and the European league tables. But I don't like seeing us kind of coasting into these games. I want the confidence to be high. And we've got one more game ahead of it at the weekend against Kilmarnock at Celtic Park, which I hope we bring back some of the football we've been used to seeing this season, especially ahead of European games. But there's just something that's a bit off going into that game, which I don't like, because, our European fate's in our hands right now. And if we play like we did tonight in Dundee, well, you can kiss Europe goodbye for all it's worth. So, anyway, let's forget about that. Let's talk about Dundee. Let's talk about the game that happened tonight. We started the game really well. Really well. Couldn't start the game any better, actually. Luke McCowan giving us the lead against his former club. Greg Taylor with a beautiful cross as well to make it 1-0. I mean, I thought we were going to be... I don't mean this in a cheeky way by any means. I thought we were going to walk out there with 3 points quite easily tonight, and that wasn't to suggest we were going to win 4 or 5-0. But I thought we'd maybe go and find another one, make it 2, maybe find a third. Maybe Dundee would threaten. Just the opening 5 minutes gave you the impression that, okay, we're on our A game tonight. We came here to ball. And then it just kind of all started going downhill a wee bit. I think that right up until maybe the 30th, 35th minute, we still looked like the better side. I thought we were in total control of the game. We were creating chances. But after that, we just kind of downed tools a wee bit. We kind of went on the back foot and let Dundee get it far too comfortable in the game. What did I say in my live stream last night? Adewumi. Just don't let him do what he done against Rangers. Don't let him use his power. Try to stop his runs. I just talked about the danger that was Adewumi, who looks like the star guy for me at Dundee in the minute. And bang, equaliser. And that point, I felt like the game changed. I felt like the game just changed entirely. It was something was sucked out of Celtic. And it kind of all transferred to Dundee. I don't think we were spectacular in the first half, but we certainly were the better team right up until maybe they scored their goal. And and then the game flips on its head. But going off the first half performance, I didn't have many complaints. I went into half-time 1-0, disappointed we conceded, but still thinking to myself, right, if we play the way we were playing, we'll pick it back up, we'll find the goal, we'll take the lead, and we'll go and do good things. Second half is basically where we need to isolate this entire match reaction. There's no point in me talking about the first half in great depth when the second half is where everything went tits up for Celtic and where most of the conversation happened. I mean, 4 of the 6 goals were scored in the second half. And once again, I thought we started the second half pretty well. We came out strong. We scored, 8 minutes into the second half. Yang, of all people, you're thinking, Yang scores. This is a day to remember this. Yang scored only his second Celtic goal. We're up 2-1. And then they go straight up the park and we score an own goal. It's a really unlucky own goal from Cameron Carter-Vickers. So if you've not watched the game and you see Cameron Carter-Vickers' own goal, it's not one of those calamities. It's not an absolute disaster. Cameron Carter-Vickers shouldn't be hanging his head in shame. I think that Celtic should be doing a better job to close down the shot/cross, whatever it was, in the first place. And we didn't do that job, and Cameron Carter-Vickers is left making a bit of a meal of it, but it's one of those ones. You can't help it, it goes in. And from that moment on, Celtic were absolutely terrible. From Dundee getting that instant equaliser, I don't know what happened. I don't know if it shook us up. We didn't expect them to hit back as quickly as they did. I don't know what it was that caused it. But from that moment on, our arse totally and utterly collapsed. And Dundee were all over us. Dundee bullied us. As I said, I'm not going to sit and say that Rangers didn't bully us on January the 2nd, because they did. They did bully us. Let's be real here for a moment. But if you take that game to the side, all season I've not seen a team do to us what Dundee done in that second half. They ran rings round us. They were more powerful than us, smarter than us. They drained Celtic of any creative football. They just made us look like novices. And it wasn't like they were doing anything spectacular. They were just, I think, mentally and physically, just the better side. They really shook Celtic. And I don't think anything stands a testament to that more than Austin Trusty's performance today. Because he was bullied. He was out the game entirely. And to be honest, I think you could have made the case that he could have been hooked at some point. But he stayed on, he played the length of the game. And it's his fault that we conceded the third goal. His defending is atrocious, but there was warning signs to that coming. There was moments in the game where there was balls falling from the air and Trusty just wouldn't jump for a header. He wouldn't challenge his man. There was moments where he was sitting there 1-1 with an attacker, too scared to make a tackle. And I've been a huge fan of Austin Trusty this year, and I still maintain that he's the best partner for Cameron Carter-Vickers, but he is lacking a certain confidence in his game. There's something that still needs to click for Trusty that Vickers has got that he's not got. I think Trusty defensively is solid. I think that moving the ball is solid, but the confidence that he's missing is seen in both aspects of his game, because number one, he's far too comfortable passing it to Vickers or passing it to Taylor when instead he should be looking to pass it forward. And number two, defensively, he's not making those big tackles that you see Vickers making constantly. Vickers will do it in the smallest of games, whether it's a cup tie against fucking Alloa, and he'll do it in the biggest games where it's, I don't know, Red Bull Leipzig in the Champions League. He will make game-winning tackles. And if Austin Trusty was put in a situation against Young Boys next week where he needs to make a game-winning tackle, I don't have any faith that he'll make it, because there's just a certain confidence gone from his game. So he's doing a lot of things. He's getting himself to those 7 out of 10s, 8 out of 10s at a push sort of performances, but he's missing the side of confidence to his game that can take him to the 10 out of 10s that Vickers gives us. And that ultimately was on show tonight, because he looked like, and I mean this with all due respect to him, because as I said, I love the guy, but he looked like a big-time shite bag tonight. And he was one of the kind of standout poor performances. And don't get, second half, everybody was poor. But I think the only person in the second half that got pass marks for me was maybe Nicholas Kuhn. The second half, everybody was poor. And but Trusty just stood out. And I think that him conceding that third goal, or being part of the reason we conceded that third goal, was just so... Oh, it was just so frustrating to see happen. And listen, he's not the only one, because for Adewumi's goal, and it's a great finish in the first half, Johnston gives him far too much room, backs off him far too much. And that's been a problem for the full-backs for me at Celtic, especially, it's usually Greg Taylor, and tonight it wasn't Greg Taylor, so don't worry, I'm not blaming him, but he always does it, especially in European games. He backs off, it just gives players far too much time and respect. And Johnston did that with Adewumi and allowed him time to calculate his finish, and bang, it's a great finish, but he didn't put enough pressure on him. And I thought that was just happening constantly with Trusty tonight. Didn't put enough pressure on his players, and that came back to bite Celtic. Was really disappointed with Austin Trusty tonight. But listen, we could talk all day about how poor Trusty was. Everybody else in that second half is just as culpable for us dropping points tonight. In the midfield, we lacked so much positivity. McGregor struggling to play a forward pass. Engels, when he came on, he got the penalty, and that's great, whatever, but there was moments in the game where I thought he had the wrong boots on, on the wrong feet. I don't think he was terrible, Engels, by any stretch, but compared to the last few games, thought he was poor. Hatate, quiet when he came on. Midfield just thought was poor. And I think what really got... And the substitutions what didn't make a difference for me tonight. And that was what was most annoying. It felt like Celtic just didn't have a plan B. Dundee done everything in their power to slow Celtic down, to drain us of all our creativity, as I mentioned earlier, and it just felt like we didn't have a plan B in that second half. We just kept trying, and it wasn't getting anywhere. If you can even call it trying, because it felt like at times we weren't trying. And they drained us of all of it, and we just didn't have a plan B. The subs came on and didn't make a real dent in the game. And everything was just a bit flat from Celtic tonight, and I get that, and I don't want to keep using the same old fucking phrases that we use all the time. There's a lot of football to play, we're playing every Wednesday, Saturday, and we've got to manage a squad, and there's no consistency in the team select. I don't want to use all those same excuses and phrases. Ultimately, we got it wrong tonight. The manager got it wrong. The players didn't deliver, and sometimes you need to change it up. Sometimes you need to do something different. But it doesn't help when you've got players like, I've not even spoke about Ademida, who was piss poor again tonight. And this isn't me speaking about my own personal opinion, but patience is wearing thin from a lot of the Celtic supporters on Ademida at the minute. And it doesn't help when you've got... I think that one of the biggest things that was brought into perspective tonight is how much is still to be done on this squad. And not by any means is this an overreaction to dropping points in the league for a change, but still got a lot of gash in there. Like, Palma's coming on the park. Palma technically shouldn't even be here if stories are to be believed. The only reason still is because there's a transfer ban at Vallecano. So you've got gash like Palma coming on the park who aren't making a dent in the game. Yang I know he scored, but Yang was terrible. And that's what I mean. There's players still in this squad who I just feel like aren't making enough of an impact, and they can't win you games. So there's still work to be done. But Engels got the last minute penalty, and what I will say about Engels is, as I said, I don't think I had his greatest cameo from off the bench this evening, but the confidence in the lad to step up to the spot and put it away the way that he done speaks lots about the player. He's his penalties alone are justifying the money we've spent on him. But yeah, it was a really poor second half. I just felt we were bullied. I felt we were absolutely bullied tonight, and it's unusual because when we do drop points, if you look at the other games where we've dropped points, I feel like there's been prolonged periods in the game where we should have scored and we should have took our chances. Tonight, it felt like that just didn't happen past a certain point. I don't know. Weird game, but we salvaged a point in the end. Just in case you're wondering what Roger's comments were after the game, he is disappointed. He has spoke about how everything was too passive, too slow, not aggressive enough, and we didn't do the basics of the game well enough, he said. So he is disappointed. He has spoke about it. But yeah, we need to pick things up ahead of the game next week against Young Boys. We need to obviously hope not Ida. He's not even his name, it's Ida. We need to hope Maida and Kuhn are back and in the team. Yeah. Anyway. There you go. Behave in the comments. Listen, we're in a very good place. 23 games, we've only dropped points 4 times, only one of them being a loss. We've drew 3, lost 1, and won the other 19. Pretty damn good. We just need to pick things up, get the confidence back on side and the consistency back as well. But anyway, that'll do it. I've yapped. See you all next time. Cheerio, ta-da.